Hello.
Hello, Andre.
Hey, Shannon. What's new?
Oh, I'm excited to tell you how my day went today.
Okay, first of all, episode 20. Okay, we actually made it through 20 episodes. I am shook. My wig has flown away. Episode 21. I'm so proud of us. Hi.
I took your wig. It's mine now.
It's in your drawer in your room. You're wearing it at
I'm wearing
night.
it right now.
At night, you'd stand in front of a mirror, put on lipstick, put on my wig, and say, "I am Andre." Um,
Actually, no, I start summoning Bloody Mary. That was close.
very Silence of the Lambs. Okay,
Yes.
what's up with your day?
So tomorrow's my birthday, as you know.
Uh huh.
I'm gonna be a haggard old woman.
Happy
But
60th birthday, by the way.
yeah, thanks. I'm excited. Honestly, I do feel 60 because I have severe back and neck pain and all I do is crafts. So there's that. No, but so for all of you listening, I suffer from an affliction that is like so terrible, so terrible. It's lactose intolerance. Um,
Oh no. Me
yeah,
too. So go ahead.
oh, you do? Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a struggle to find a cake where like they don't like saturate it in milk. And so I was going to make my own birthday cake. So I started baking today. I did 4 layers of a blueberry cake and let me tell you, this bitch, every single pan it just stuck. And so I ended up with just pieces of cake crumbling,
Oh.
looking like shit. And here's the thing, I didn't give up. So I started just stacking these pieces and just frosting them like I would, and it looks so bad. It looks like someone's butt crack is just like opening up.
Wait, I'm confused. Like why does the cake not having milk make it stick to the pan?
Not having Oh, no, it has nothing to do with the milk. It's just that's why I made my own cake instead of buying one, basically.
Oh, but you just are not a good baker.
Hey, it's not my fault, okay? I oiled the pans and everything. They just did not come out. Like they were stuck. And I think it's
That's
because the
weird.
blueberries like sunk to the bottom and they were sticking to the pan, so they like didn't want to come out, and so they just broke. And so it looks like crap, but it's lactose free. So, and it tastes pretty good. Like
Well,
it looks
at least
terrible.
you're gonna have your frosted lactose-free pile of shit to eat at your
Yeah. No, it's fine. I was so disappointed because I'm such a perfectionist, and I was like, why does it look like why does it look like this?
No,
And it just
man. Like you
yeah.
think it'd be easier, but baking is no joke.
No, it's really not. It is not a joke, and if you have the patience and the skill to do that, then I applaud you.
Have you ever seen those people who like make cakes that look like real life objects? Like they look photorealistic, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, first, how? Second, how do you have the time? Like, well, I mean, I guess if that's your profession, of course, but like, damn, like,
Yeah.
wow.
It's like literally art. I
Yeah,
hate those people for being perfect, you know? Like I
like
bet they're the same people who have perfect eyebrows.
they groom him like extensively and like in detail, like every morning of their lives. They're that kind of
Honestly.
meticulous, almost like American Psycho meticulous, you know? Um,
Oh, speaking of American Psycho. Did you know that Christian Bale modeled his performance off of Tom Cruise's interviews?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say speaking of American Psycho, that's me.
Oh,
But
well, it is.
no, I did not know that, and that is very fascinating, and I totally believe it.
Yeah, well, I just finished a whole book. I actually finished Leah Remini's book on Scientology, so like I'm thinking about Tom Cruise a lot lately.
Dude, if you wanna like get killed, we should do an episode on Scientology.
They would absolutely kill us. We don't have money to survive Scientology.
But yeah, okay. Well, then let's have our little mini episode right now. Scientology is fucking crazy. Don't join it. Thank you for listening.
It's even worse than you think it is. Like, I recommend that book that Leah Remini wrote for
Hmm.
literally everyone. Phenomenal, so interesting. She is a catty bitch, and I love her.
Well, I'm gonna write that down. I have seen some of her interviews, and she's very interesting. So you know, the book isn't a stretch.
Hmm.
But yeah, like Jimmy Fallon has had some of those cakes on his show for like I don't know a game show or whatever, and one of them was like a shoe, like a red
Oh my
heel,
gosh.
and I was like, holy shit! Like the game is like I guess the celebrity was supposed to guess which one real and which one wasn't, and
Hmm.
by biting into it, and like Kendall Jenner bit into a real shoe because the cake one looked so real that she couldn't differentiate them. Um,
Oh wow. But I
so-
mean, you have to realize that Kendall is surrounded by people who don't look real, so like I don't know how much I trust her.
yeah, that's fair. Anyway, so what are we talking about today?
What are we talking about today? I I want you to tell me.
Today we're talking about skinwalkers. Okay, so in all seriousness, I love this topic, and I know that last one was immortality. Not too long ago, we did zombies, and those were more like, I guess you could say, lighthearted, if that.
Yeah.
But skinwalkers are scary as shit. I used to read a couple years ago. I was really into this stuff, and I used to read like basically like let's not meet stories about skinwalkers like at nights
Mm.
in my bedroom. Like I would just do that. Um, Terrible idea, by the way. Couldn't sleep. Um, but like so intriguing. And it was just I just thought it was so weird. That's also when the creepypasta of the rake had come out, or like I just found out about it back then. And I guess the rake is like very similar to skinwalkers. So like it all like pieced together for me, and I was like, ooh, this is
Yeah.
like my new thing that I like. Um yeah. So
Well, I'm glad that you are so passionate about it because I obviously struggled with this. Like, I struggle with a lot of things, but that's mostly because I mostly only found creepypastas and Reddit stories where I was like, are they for real? And so, like, I was trying to find stuff that was a little bit more vetted, but I wanted you to do more of like the background research because I figured that you would like go in depth because you are so passionate about it. So,
yes. So by the way, a note on the Reddit stories. I know that I say this a lot, like the rule of 100 or the rule of 1,000, but I do believe in it. Like I hate when people are like, oh, like it's all lies. Like I don't know. To me, it just feels like I don't know, realistic to
well,
think that one out of like 1,000 people
yeah.
must be telling their true experience.
Yeah, it's just I was a creative writing major,
Oh my
and let me
god,
tell
fuck
you,
off, Shannon.
they they just all seemed like stories we would workshop, you know? Like, I don't know.
I mean, look, that's fair. I have to give you some credit. You did study the field, so I'll give you that. But still, like even if you increase it and if it's just like rule of 10,000, there's still one person that like has had that experience, and to me that opens the door to be like this could be real. That's all it takes, really. One person who is telling the truth. How do we know they're telling the truth? We don't. But like if we knew, you know what I mean? Um
Do they have access to a computer and Wi-Fi? That's also a question.
okay, so skinwalkers. Let me do my scary voice. Hi everyone. No, sorry, that's my ASMR voice. Wrong voice. Hi everyone. Sorry, that's my constipated voice.
It sounded like your straight voice, actually.
I haven't developed that one yet. Okay, so in Navajo culture, a skinwalker is a type of harmful witch who has the ability to turn into, possess, or disguise themselves as an animal. This is straight from the Wikipedia article on skinwalkers. I thought there was no better and no more concise description, so this is perfect. It also mentions that this term is never used for healers. So,
Hmm.
big difference between those two types of witches, I guess. Like, I guess they're both witches, but there's good ones and there's bad ones. um and bad witches who like decide to sell their soul, not literally, there's nothing about selling your soul here, but witches who decide to be evil, I guess, they can turn into skinwalkers. Now, some more detailed background. So in the Navajo language, there is this word, yi naldoshi, which translates to the one that goes on all fours. If that wasn't
Hmm.
already creepy enough, apparently there's more than one type of skinwalkers. Fun fact. The Navajo people, like the stories that non-Navajo people know about the most are about this specific type of skinwalker, the Yinaldoshi. But apparently this is one of several varieties of the Antini witch. So if
Hmm.
you're an Antini witch, you can decide then, like, that's the umbrella term, and then you can decide what kind of skinwalker you want to be. So, are you creeped out yet?
No, but that's because I kind of read some of this too.
Okay. No, that's fair. I mean, listeners have to know. So, there's an umbrella term, and then there's type of skinwalkers. So, if you if you find one, like if you ever see one, to anyone who's listening, please do not like misname them. Be respectful. Ask them their skinwalker denomination and then refer to them by that. So Navajo
It's all about
people
respect, y'all.
are okay. So this is really interesting to me. The Navajo people don't actually like sharing stories about skinwalkers with people outside their community, because I guess like then they ask a lot of questions, and like the Navajo people don't like exposing or like talking about it too much. It's kind of apparently it's a thing about, they feel like if they talk too much about it, they're like bringing it upon themselves. Um,
It's
which
like
like
you when you were worried about starting this podcast.
yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that I get that, because that was me with this podcast, just in the general sense of like, what if ghosts or demons or whatever come, and I don't think that anymore, but I think it's a fair concern. So okay, so the reason skinwalkers are bad is because these Navajo witches, the skinwalkers, they represent the antithesis of Navajo culture and values. While the healers in Navajo communities are basically like medicine people, the other type of witch don't do that. They just do evil potions and like twisted ceremonies and like manipulatives, like sacrificial practices and rituals and weird shit. So like they do work with like plants and potions and shit, but it's all for evil purposes. So not the same. Very important differentiation. Um, Most people can handle the responsibility of becoming a witch, but some people within the Navajo community can become corrupt, and those are the ones that choose to become like skinwalkers. So I guess they also call their healers witches. Again, there's good ones and bad ones. Oh, important to note also, like skinwalkers can be men or women. Doesn't matter. So I guess witches and wizards. Um, sounds so weird. What's the other word for? Oh, warlock. Yeah, witches and
Yeah.
warlocks. Everyone. Um, okay, last interesting like tidbit fact about like background wise. So the animals associated with witchcraft usually include quote unquote trickster animals, which I thought was very interesting, that there's such like a specific category of what they deem to be trickster animals, and one of them is a coyote. Can you explain to me
Mm.
how coyotes are like tricksters? I'm confused.
Oh, well, for one, when they cry out at night, they sound like a woman getting murdered.
Okay, fair. Well, that's enough. Actually, that's enough of a reason. I believe you now. Fucking coyotes. I actually have coyotes like outside my house at night. I guess I just haven't heard him
Yeah.
like scream.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like the desert out there.
yeah. So there's other creatures that can also be like skinwalker animals, like what the skinwalkers look like when they turn into animals. Hyenas, which like makes sense, and
Mm-hmm.
also like vultures. Although I haven't heard a lot of
Mm.
stories involving vultures, but I guess it makes sense. And in general, just any animal that is associated with death or like bad omen.
What
Um,
about a raccoon? Because I had a run in with a raccoon recently, and those things are smart and sneaky.
Raccoons are very sneaky. Yeah, I mean they are the king of the tricksters actually. So I'm surprised there are no skinwalker raccoons. Um, so they might also possess living animals or people and walk around in their bodies by locking eyes with them. This is something that the article like states, and I like put in bold. That is fucking crazy. So basically, if you look at a skinwalker, like that's how they kind of possess you. Like I'll go into a little more detail about this in a minute, but thoughts so far.
I kind of love it. I kind of like it. I like when we get into this whole brutal, like animal roots type of thing. Like, I
Yeah.
like that, and I think also it's less about the action of becoming an animal, and it's more about the violence that comes associated with that. Because animals don't really have morals; they just have instincts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you think of a person who runs by morals and they choose to like throw that away to like kill some people, it's like, oh, that's kind of scary. That's like crazy.
That's the thing that is like not super explained, and it's kind of debatable, and I couldn't find a lot about this, like why specifically someone wants to turn into a skinwalker, because it actually doesn't seem to be just to kill people. Like there's a lot of skinwalker encounters where like that doesn't happen. Maybe it's because the person escaped, but like just in general I didn't see that. Um,
Well, maybe they can like also take on the senses of an animal and they can smell how much MSG and McDonald's the person's eating and is like, that's not good meat. I'm gonna move on.
maybe. Yeah, I guess I'm just a little confused about that. I mean, it would make total sense if it was just to kill people because then they could use those bodies in their rituals and whatever. But again, I haven't seen a lot of that. Maybe it could just be that I'm just reading stories from survivors. Obviously, dead people can type. So,
Yeah.
anyway, okay. So, some more interesting facts about this is some more interesting facts about skinwalkers from the article titled "14 Facts About Skinwalkers That Will 100% Scare the Shit Out of You" by Jacob Gears.
Oh, Jacob, you got me with that clickbait.
He certainly got me too. So, a skinwalker, apparently, like they can actually transform into any animal. Like the trickster animals are very popular, but they can transform into any animal. So your little hamster could be a skinwalker. Yeah, your fucking dog could be a Navajo witch for all you know it. Your little sausage dog. So to everyone listening,
So when he's begging for popcorn, what he's actually saying is, "Give me your soul."
yeah, exactly. um oh yeah, oh, this is good. So they can apparently steal the faces of different people, and they can and like ergo they can appear as someone that you know. So this is actually what most of the stories that I've read kind of detail, that they see. Some of them are animals, but some of the people say that they actually see someone like kind of just like standing in their yard and like in the
Mm.
middle of night, just kind of like looking at them, or even that they hear someone that they know, like a friend or their mom or something, call their name. But the
Mm.
stories always say that whenever that quote unquote person that they know talks, they don't sound like themselves. They sound a little off.
Mm.
Sounds like an imitation of that person that you know. Oh, that creeps me out so fucking much. I hate that.
I feel like that's in a lot of different stories of creatures. Like, I wonder if there's a connecting beast that it could all be, you know?
The
Because
devil.
yeah, it's just the devil. But, like, when I was doing my own research into skinwalkers, I noticed that there's a lot of similarities between skinwalkers and wendigos.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, it's like, well, maybe it is the same thing. It's just in these different cultures, they're describing it as something else and it kind of takes on its own form later on, you know?
I mean, I guess I want to say no, just to like not take the magic away of Wendigos, for example. I want to think that there's like 1,000 weird creatures out there, so we can talk about all of them. But they could all very well just be different names for the same thing. I mean, think Yeti versus what's it called?
Sasquatch.
Yeah. Well, no, there's another one for the one that's like snow specific.
Oh,
But yeah, like
abdominal.
Sasquatch
Yeah.
versus Bigfoot. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. So, have you ever heard the story of the rake?
I haven't
Okay,
actually.
so long story. I mean, it's a creepy pasta, but some people say that it's actually real. I don't believe it's real, but if it was, like, that would, for example, be another name for a skinwalker. And basically, it's this creature that, like in the story, the popular creepypasta like sat on the foot of a woman's bed, and she woke up, and then her husband woke up, and like she locked eyes with the rake, and then the rake, which is just this like 6 foot tall, really pale, really skinny humanoid figure with big red eyes, um like almost white skin and no hair, no eyebrows, completely naked, just like locked eyes with her, and then like it immediately went and like killed her 2 kids, and then like by the time the
Oh.
husband and her got there, like they were dead. And like it's weird, I don't know, but yeah, like if any of that is real, or if the rake itself is real, like that's another name for a skinwalker apparently, because the physical description is very very similar. So, oh,
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, it's also pretty similar to other stuff too, like I said.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, and the reason, okay, so skinwalkers can transform into animals and or people or whatever, but they do have an original form that they always come back to. That's the form I'm referring to when I say like they look like the rake. And that original form is also like skinny, pale, humanoid figure. They don't look quite human, and they're like tall and skinny. So that's the form. So yeah, they can steal faces. What the fuck's up with that? Next fun fact. If you accidentally lock eyes with a skinwalker, they can absorb themselves into your body and take control of your actions. So
So like there's a lot of situations where like you don't know if you're going to be taken and possessed or your friend is going to be possessed or
yeah,
like there's different ways basically.
I mean, the strange thing is in the stories that I've read, like people will look at the skinwalker, but um, like nothing happens to them. It's only apparently if you like speak back at it that's bad. Like trying to establish a
Mm.
conversation with it, like that's bad. Like you're
And
screwed.
you know like my ass would.
um. So. Oh, okay. Okay, actually, no, I'm gonna leave that out because I know you're gonna talk about Utah Ranch. But basically, a lot of shit happened there,
Yeah.
related to this, related to skinwalkers. Oh, another really good one is that apparently they have a tendency to hang around graveyards and they can dig up graves very fast.
Ooh.
Okay, and I was like, why? And then I read somewhere else that it was because they can apparently use the dust that's on corpses as poison. Um,
Hmm.
for like
That's
I
kind of
don't,
gross.
yeah, to like throw at you. I'm confused, but that's apparently what it's for. Um, they recruit more skinwalkers. Like skinwalkers recruit skinwalkers. It's not clear how they do it, but apparently there's like an official ritualistic ceremony, and yeah, I mean
Did
whatever.
you or are you going to talk about because I thought that there was this type of skinwalker where if you like kill a family member, then that turns you into a skinwalker in some weird ritual or something.
See, I have heard that, but I didn't read it in any of the background that I was doing, so I wonder if it was just lifted off a story and it became like a
Yeah.
popular thing to say, but it's not actually in Navajo culture.
Okay, interesting.
But yeah, I mean that's a thing. Like I had heard when I was first coming across this stuff years ago that like that's how you became one. Like you killed a family member, and then like you as a witch like went through the ritual, and that's it. Like you did it. Now you're a skinwalker, and it's very morbid. But again, I didn't
Yeah.
see that here. Um,
Okay.
okay, super duper interesting. You know how you can kill a skinwalker?
Silver bullet.
Close. You call them by their true human name.
Ooh, Brittany, what up?
Can you imagine? I know it's you, Brittany. Fucking melt. Ah! I was about to like rip you in half. You're like, Joshua, fuck off. Melts immediately. Now, what I want to do is recount just a couple of stories. I read a bunch, but just two of the best ones that I found that boy are just like amazing. They're fucking
Okay.
scary. And let's see if I can do them justice here on the podcast. So one of them is called let me say this correctly. Yenaldushi is watching me. So this person recounts, my grandmother on my mother's side has always been very superstitious. For lack of better word, she's not religious, but she does believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. Her mother was full-blooded Navajo, and her father was Irish. Either way, she'd never been anywhere east of Montana, and she grew up in Nevada. One year, when I was in grade school, we went to visit her. Wait, let me try a different voice. Most of the visit was pretty uneventful. um, anyway, typical boring old people stuff, except she always kept her curtains drawn shut and would always peek out of the window. And when someone asked what she was doing, she would simply reply, Yenaldushi is watching me. This
Ooh.
went on for nearly the entire visit until a few days before we were due to leave. My grandma and my then baby brother were in the front yard that evening, planting flowers, when all of a sudden my grandmother starts shouting. Insert little brother's name here, he doesn't say the name. Get away from that creature, it's not safe. Of course, being in Nevada, we all assumed that my brother had found a scorpion or a rattlesnake, so we all ran outside to see my grandmother clutching my little brother and shaking in terror against the side of the house, standing out in the yard. And why? Because there was a large black Great Dane sized dog that was staring at my grandmother with an intensity that I'd never seen before. It looked
Mm.
up at us, gave a little huff, and bounded off. I don't remember if it moved unusually fast or not, but I do remember it had really deep yellow eyes. When my mother asked my grandmother what had happened, she kept repeating, the Yanaldushi has found me. She moved a couple weeks after that.
Oh dear.
Yeah, isn't that creepy?
That's very creepy.
Ugh, I hate. Okay, thoughts so far.
My cat has yellow eyes.
You're fucked, Shannon. Um,
I think it's interesting. Um, it is just a story, though, Andre.
fine. Well, then let me tell you one more just a story.
Okay.
Um, so okay, this person recounts. So this happened about 12 years ago. My family owns a farm in the heart of an Indian reservation. One winter, I was home for Christmas taking care of the farm while my parents were away Christmas shopping. As I was home by myself, way late in the night, listening to Britney, I added that, and
That was so
uh,
smooth. I like wouldn't have known.
I heard all of our cows freaking out. I knew it had to be the wild dogs that are rampant in the area, so I throw on some boots, grab a shotgun, load it up, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. Oh my god, have you ever heard of the Burger King food burger lettuce meme? I sound like
What?
that dude narrating right now. If you okay, the listeners will probably know, but Shannon, I'm gonna send you this meme. It's this guy who does like top 15 videos on YouTube, and he has like a scary voice, and he
Oh.
did one that was like scary, like weird restaurant gross shit, and like the way the video starts became like viral because he started it literally by saying like number 15 Burger King foot lettuce. And like that just like ran rampant on internet. I had to send you this, but anyway, um, where was I? So this guy threw in some boots, he grabbed the gun, and he headed out. Right. So he says this was the perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy, but there was a full moon, and it was breaking through the clouds just right to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field, and just in time, I see two dogs. They were standing up facing each other and fighting. I think, perfect, two for one. So I pump a shell into the chamber, and then it happened. The two dogs heard the rack. They both stopped, looked over at me, and ran away on their back legs.
Oh dear.
Immediately, I froze, and every ghost story about skinwalkers and all the other native legends I grew up with flew through my mind. Keep in mind, I am a white guy, and up until then, these were all just boogeyman stories the native kids like to tell to scare us. That night, they became real to me.
Oh dear. Um, I think that one felt very realistic in terms of like this white guy has a shotgun at the ready. That makes sense to me.
Was this in Reading?
If it was in Reading, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I think that they're interesting. These are different from what I was reading on Reddit and elsewhere because the ones I was reading were like all the same story repeated by different people where they were like driving and they saw it or they were chased by one and I was like, why is it all the same story? Like that was suspect to me, but these ones
Yeah.
are definitely different situations.
And then the entire train clapped slowly.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's what I have.
So what do we think? Do we think because like you said, these people survived, so they were able to recount it.
Right.
What are the skinwalkers doing when they're lurking in people's backyards or they're watching you?
They are either trying to lure you in, like, or gathering intel for a future attack, or using your barn or whatever of your like property they're using to like do a ritual. I don't know. Maybe they don't have a spot right now. Um, I don't know, like because like this is strange, right? Like the two dogs on their hind legs, mind you, were fighting inside this guy's barn, basically. Like
Mm-hmm.
why? Like, I mean, I guess because people fight, but what an uncoordinated attack. um, yeah,
Well,
and
is
then they
it?
ran away when like he got the shotgun, which like I guess
Yeah.
maybe they're not immune to bullets, but like you'd think, especially if there was two of them and only one guy, they'd attack right there and then. I don't know.
I just don't know what their intent is because up until now I assumed it was just to be an animal and to get away with killing someone to make it look like an animal did it.
Hmm.
Um, but then like we're talking about rituals as well, and we're talking about like they seem to have their own situation going on. Where I thought skinwalkers also were typically alone, but now we have two arguing. So, or I that's fighting, whatever.
Yeah, I mean that doesn't like completely like erase like the intents that you mentioned. You know, people fight, whatever. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, ask yourself, why did people become witches? Like, think like,
Hmm.
you know, like 17th century, like England, like that kind of history. Like there and then, like, why did people want to become witches if witches were real? There was more than one
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah, I guess maybe it is just about power. I really don't want the Navajo to come for me. I have a lot of respect for you guys, but I do have to ask: is this like a furry thing? Um, I is it just like become a skinwalker and then like I don't know.
Oh, I can see that. That's terrifying, and I can
I
see
have
it.
to ask.
Okay, spook me.
Okay, I can spook you, but I don't know how much I can spook you because you definitely had more spooking on your side.
I'm easily spooked. Have you met me? Okay.
You're spooked by it all, which is good. I like that about you. So, I am so tired. I'm so sorry, listeners. I'm so tired of saying like I hate true crime. Why does true crime exist? And then I say, I'm going to talk about true crime today. So that's going to be my last warning. That's it. From here on
Okay.
out, just don't expect the warning. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Disclaimer. Got it.
Yeah, it's been disclaimed. I feel like this is something I want to talk about because it is very grounded in reality while also being so like outside of the norm. Like I can't believe this happened. Um
Okay.
so this happened in Arizona. So we're like in the desert landscape again, like you were in Nevada for that one story, and
If you
so
had
yeah, I
said like this happened in Florida, it doesn't matter what came after that sentence. It would have been like whatever happened is real, and it happened.
well, I'm going with the desert landscape for the skinwalkers, I guess. So the victim is called Sarah Saganitzo. That's her name.
Mm-hmm.
And she was a young woman. She was Navajo, which is very important for this particular event. Sarah was found behind Flagstaff Medical Center in Arizona, nude, dead, beaten. One of her breasts was eaten off. It
What
looked
the
like,
fuck?
yeah, it was gone. It looked like it had been mangled, eaten off. She had a deep puncture wound in her upper torso, which seemed to be the fatal blow.
Okay.
So, yeah, just already it's like that's such a horrific way to die and be found.
Yeah.
And
Like I was gonna make jokes, but I literally can't bring myself because I'm like, damn, that's terrible.
right, exactly. It's terrible. And they were originally the cops were looking into her ex-boyfriend because he was a part of the Navajo church and they were already looking at it from a sort of skinwalker angle because of the animalistic way she was killed, which is
Well, but like,
understandable,
do the
but
cops believe in skinwalkers though?
well, I guess it's not really about belief, it's about what does the killer believe, you know?
I mean, no, it's not because like it doesn't matter what you believe unless you are actually a real animal skinwalker.
Yeah.
Like, how did you bite that boob off?
Well, a human could do that. You know what I mean? Like anyone, like your pinky is like the density of a carrot. Like people can bite that off easily. Like
Don't come
I
for my pinky shit.
I will not today. Maybe in my sleep or something. Don't rethink having me over. So it is possible. Like that's it's definitely possible. And for
Okay.
anyone who watches Hannibal like me, yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
So they were looking into her ex-boyfriend. Luckily, just because I feel like it would be kind of sad if it was him because he's part of the Navajo church and she was Navajo. I think that would be kind of like more fuel to people being, prejudiced.
Hmm.
But luckily, they did arrest someone. And I don't know if I should say luckily because of how this turns out, but this dude was George Abney. He's a white dude, former English professor of Northern Arizona University. So I
Okay.
that's like the most random thing, right? It's like,
Yeah.
really? Like a former English professor. Okay. So Abney, he was brought to the cops' attention because he was telling his friends that he was having bizarre dreams about Saganitso's murder. Um, Basically, from what I could tell, this guy was going around saying like, "Oh, like I don't know why I'm dreaming about this girl that was murdered. Like, it felt like it was real. Like I felt like I was there. Stuff like that. That's very
Yeah.
sketchy." But he didn't have any memories of killing her, and so like even now, it's like, well, did he? And that's just something we don't know.
Well, if he did,
Um,
he certainly wouldn't admit having memories, would he?
yeah, that's fair. But I think for for the kind of concept of like is skinwalkers or are skinwalkers a real thing, the memory thing would play into that if they were real, maybe because it's possible that maybe he was just there and saw a skinwalker, or maybe there is a memory process behind this whole thing, or he was possessed by a skinwalker, which aren't really things that I want to entertain entirely, but I don't feel like it's that off kilter
Yeah.
to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But and so what ended up happening is he was arrested for interrogations, or I guess taken into custody for questioning. And after a while, he did confess, but I have questions about confessions in general because false confessions are very very
Yeah.
common.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. But the thing that's interesting is even in talking with the cops and through the questioning, it was clear that he wasn't able to distinguish between his dreams and reality. So, like, he was coming undone, basically. And so he did end up confessing to the murder, and it did go to trial. So, what happened was his defense team, they claimed that the murder was committed by, well, they didn't say it was committed. They're saying it was surrounded by skinwalker like circumstances. So they were saying already, like, in order to add some reasonable doubt to this case and give you a good chance, we're gonna highlight the points of how this is similar to a skinwalker. And he was found not guilty.
Hmm.
Yeah, so
That
he was acquitted.
is very interesting. Um.
It's interesting because this is the only time this has happened in terms of skinwalkers. I don't know if there's like other supernatural things where this has happened, but like someone actually went to court and got away with murder essentially. Like even if he didn't do it, like if you think about it in the way of like a court of law, like a jury in Arizona was able to decide that there was enough chance for it to have been a supernatural being that he got off, which is crazy.
Yeah. That's yeah. I know. I agree.
So what do you think? Isn't
But
that
also,
just like,
like, I shouldn't agree because I'm an advocate for people believing this kind of shit because it's real.
but like, was it real in this circumstance? And like, I guess, we just don't know, you know?
I mean, like, it could have been. All I'm thinking is like this, like maybe he just saw a skinwalker. The skinwalker somehow like transferred him his memories, and then he saw it in dreams. But in reality, the poor guy had nothing to do with the murder. Like, why would a college professor murder someone? I mean, they can, sure, but like that's just not the profile you usually see. So,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well,
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
first off, I did read like last year, I think, college professor was arrested for being a serial killer. But um I wanted to bring up the possession thing again because you said that they could possess you just by looking at you. So if he
Mm-hmm.
was possessed, don't you think that would be reason for him not to remember?
I mean, if he was possessed and then he did it while possessed, then
Yeah.
and then was unpossessed, then yeah,
Yeah, because it's not like we have like a measure of how these possessions go. Like how much will
right.
you remember? Will you be conscious during it? How long can they stay in you? Like these just aren't things that we have a understanding of. But yeah, so that's just like that's a really scary thing that I wanted to bring up because it's real for one. Like this actually happened. So
I also
I don't
liked how
know.
like the defense, like that was their defense, and it just like speaks to how the justice system is like put together here,
Yeah.
how it's structured, which is not a bad thing. I'm just kind of pointing out that I find that really fascinating how the prosecution has basically like the burden of proof, and like they have to prove that this person is guilty of this, whereas I've always like found it so fascinating that the defense in a case doesn't have to prove that the person is innocent of doing that, just that they're
Mhm.
not guilty, which sounds like the same but it's not the same.
Mhm.
um
Yeah, it's really
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, they don't have to prove that they didn't do it at all. Like that's never going to be on the defense, which is really honestly kind of great in my opinion because I hate the idea of being on the other side, you know, but
Right. I mean, yeah, I think for the most part, like it's an okay dynamic. Because I mean, if you're accusing
yeah.
someone, I feel like you should have more burden than the
Yeah.
team that's trying to defend you, because this is the person that's bringing this issue to the table, right? The prosecution.
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyway,
also
tune in next episode for more legal talk.
he has a political science degree. It's not a joke. No, but also I forgot to mention. I don't know why this slipped my mind. It's kind of a big detail. So the prosecution actually had proof that his teeth matched the indents on her breast that was removed.
Oh shit! And they let him go.
So they let him go. Yeah, but I mean that only proves that he bit her boob off. It didn't prove that he wasn't possessed by a skinwalker, if that makes sense.
Wait, repeat that sentence, please. I'm confused.
All it proves is that at some point in time, his teeth made contact with her removed breast. It doesn't prove that he killed her, and it doesn't prove that he wasn't possessed by a skinwalker.
Correct and correct. Which one speaks to the point I just made about the defense not having to prove that he didn't do anything weird, because he might as well have. Maybe he bit her boob, but he didn't kill her, so he's free. Again,
Right.
defense is such an interesting topic. But anyway, but number two, like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
In my mind, he probably did it. I just don't know if he was mentally
yeah,
stable enough for
he probably
prison.
did it, but I'm still considering that maybe he wasn't like completely his fault because he was possessed. Just a
Right.
consideration.
Like you're going with it wasn't his fault because he was possessed by a skinwalker. I'm going with it probably wasn't entirely his fault because he was mentally ill.
Yeah, it's kind of the same, but not the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is crazy. Maybe they shouldn't have let him go. You know what they say? If the teeth fit, you must not acquit. Or
Did they
you
say that
must
in your
wait.
dentist
What?
office?
What? Come again? What?
Is that like on a poster in the dentist office?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so I want to talk now about something I find really fascinating. I'm really into this, and it is Sherman Ranch in Utah, which is what you brought up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So, my ass, my fucking UFO detecting ass, just like it goes into the red when we talk about Sherman Ranch. Oh my god. Like, I could talk about it for a whole nother episode, honestly,
Oh,
because it's so
okay.
fascinating.
I love this. Go ahead.
So it's more commonly known as Skinwalker Ranch, and I'm just going to talk about the Skinwalker aspects of this ranch because this is honestly a place. It's a pretty big farm in Utah. It's just this huge amount of acreage where mysterious and crazy things that cannot be explained happen. And it's not like I'm saying that lightly because it's been happening for like 30 years straight with so many documentations from different people, different witnesses. They actually had like a scientific crew come take over the ranch and like monitor it for years just to see if they could capture anything. And that's insane. So
Yeah.
it's like a hot spot for crazy things and mostly aliens, but I'm not going to talk about that today. Unfortunately. So just to kind of take you to kind of the beginning. Well, actually this is not going to be the beginning, I'm sorry, but it's close to the beginning. So in 1992, Bob and Linda Bradshaw and their sons, they were living at Sherman Ranch at this point. I think they were the second owners after the Shermans, and they basically witnessed a lot of weird things when they first moved there, such as unusual lights, UFOs, just surrounding the entire ranch. Linda, the wife, she believed that this was due. Bear with me here.
Okay.
Linda believed that this was due to an interdimensional portal at the ranch where creatures could travel through dimensions to ours.
I have heard crazier things, so try me.
All right. So, and this isn't unfounded. I'm here for Linda. I believe you, Linda. I am down with it. You know how I am about dimensions. So, this is kind of where I say, like, it's so different from your version of Skinwalkers because yours are more grounded in the Navajo culture.
Yeah.
And this interpretation of Skinwalkers is that they could be something from another dimension. I don't know if that's true though, because if we think about the Utah landscape, it is kind of deserty too, and it's very wild. And like maybe it's not that it is from another dimension. Maybe it's just that things are drawn to this place.
Well, we
Um,
don't even know if skinwalkers at all are
yeah,
true or real. So just yeah,
yeah, that's fair. I guess I just have to come up with a narrative in my own mind to try and make sense of it.
yeah, I get that.
So basically, long after Bob and Linda Bradshaw, there was the National Institute of Discovery Science, which is now defunct, but they were the ones who came and worked with one of the families. I think it might have been the Bradshaws actually, and they like set up cameras. They did research over the ranch, and it basically became the NIDS base, which is National Institute of Discovery Science. So on one particular day, because the NIDS researchers, they were actually pretty subject to a lot of crazy things happening, and in all the reports they say like, oh, the cameras would suddenly stop working and stuff, so we couldn't record it, which is kind of convenient, but also like these are people with like doctorates and like actual research experience, and so I'm not gonna be dismissing them that easily, you know.
Yeah.
So two of these guys, these researchers, they were studying the ranch in 1997, and it was August 25th, and I think this happened at night, and they were outside. So they were just kind of hanging out on the ranch studying it when they saw a dark, faceless humanoid crawling out of a greenish light in the distance.
I hate that
So
so much.
yeah, so they described the light as like looking kind of like it was coming out of like how would you say this? Like a cylinder, like just imagine like getting some Pillsbury dough, you know, that comes in the cylinder,
Uh-huh.
but and popping it open, but instead of nice cookie goodness, there's light and a creature crawling.
Lit.
It is lit. So they kind of got closer, and upon closer investigation, they noted that the creature was crawling like with its elbows out, you know, on its knees, crawling out of this light. They still didn't have a face. It was very lanky and skinny. And the moment it was able to like get out of the tunnel, it just stood up in the field and walked away. And in that moment, everything disappeared. The light went away. They couldn't see the creature anymore. It was like it had never happened.
What the fuck? I hate this because this kind of shit scares me because I watch so many movies. I just have a movie mind. Like when I read something or I just see it like a cinematic
Mm-hmm.
experience. Like I can literally like watch a movie in my head, and I hate it.
Yeah.
um,
And these are two scientists. They're probably sitting there like, what the fuck was that?
yeah.
And so that definitely ties into Linda thinking this is an interdimensional portal. And one of the things that she said, which I found really interesting, is that from the upper bedroom window, I think where their bedroom was, she could see like UFOs and stuff almost perfectly, but then from a different angle, like at the ground floor or even driving past the ranch on the other side, almost like perpendicularly, you couldn't see like part of the sky. So it was almost like there was like a hole in the sky or something, but you could only see it from that second floor at that exact point.
Hmm.
Which I could go into detail some other time, but like the portal thing, it kind of makes sense in a weird way.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about Terry Sherman. He was the one who named it Sherman Ranch, obviously. So he was like the big farmer dude. He moved his family out to this ranch, and they were just like cattle ranchers. They had a bunch of cows and took care of that or whatever, you know. Um, so what happened to him? This is noted in his book about the ranch, and it's it's really interesting. So they have a barn, right, where they have I think these were goats. Oh no, it's calves. It's little calves. So inside the barn, he heard like a bunch of like chaos going on, and like one of his calves was like whimpering and stuff. And so he grabbed the gun and he went out there. And I think maybe his son was with him, I'm not sure, but basically what he saw in the barn was this large animal with glowing red eyes. It was like black with like matted fur. It was huge. It was almost the size of a cow, but it was obviously more like a wolf or a dog.
Hmm.
And it had these red eyes, and it was basically like latched onto the calf, and it was attacking this calf. And he was like, that's my fucking cow. Like,
Yeah.
you don't mess with my fucking cow. So basically he takes his gun and he shoots this motherfucking wolf. And um he shoots it again, and he's using like big bullets too. Like I think this was like a pretty hardy gun. And what happened was instead of falling down, being in pain, or even bleeding, it just seemed that it was bothered by it in a sort of inconveniencing way. Like it let go of the calf, and then it stood on two legs and walked away. It just left the barn as though it had been stung by a bee.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and so that's not the only time he saw this thing. He saw it a lot, mostly from a distance, but he always knew what it was, and he just hoped it wouldn't come back for his cows. And the issue that he and his family were having was that the cows would be mutilated, which is tying into the UFO thing. And he was losing so many cows that eventually he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna sell this fucking ranch and I'm gonna go take my business elsewhere because this is just not good for my business to be on a haunted fucking farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Utah, there's the Ute tribe, which is a Native American tribe, and apparently they kind of always had their superstitions about Sherman Ranch. Um, they basically claim a lot of the same things that the Shermans and the next owners were saying before they had said it and before any of the books or anything had come out about it. And so the Ute tribe is kind of just standing there like, yeah, we don't mess with that ranch, you know? Gwen Sherman, she was the wife. She encountered a wolf so large that its back was parallel with the top of her car when she was driving down the road.
What the
Um,
fuck?
yeah, and she said that it was accompanied by a dog-like animal that she couldn't identify. So like, there's just this huge wolf walking beside her car with like a smaller dog thing, and
Ugh,
she's just praying to God it doesn't knock the car over or something.
damn.
Um, and then Jim Sherman, I think he was the son, maybe one of the older sons. He saw the horses acting frantic one day, and he said that there was just this hyena like creature slashing its claws at them, at the horses, and it looked to be about 200 pounds and it had this big bushy tail. And when he went to go like scare it off, it just jumped from the corral and it ran. And this happened in broad daylight where he saw this thing.
Wow.
And yeah, so there was a lot of witnesses of that happening, and eventually they did leave, but that's basically what happened with Shermans in terms of skinwalkers. So, have you heard of the Bureau of Indian Affairs?
I have not.
So, in like the Native American reservations, they have their own kind of not police force, but investigators,
Okay.
and it's called the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So, two officials were patrolling nearby the farm, well, the ranch, and this is really weird. I was wondering if I should include it, but then again, I'm like talking about interdimensional beings, so may as well.
The weirdness
Just
scale has, yeah.
yeah, but I guess this is something people don't like to talk about or bring up because they think it's weird, but I'm going to bring it up. So, these are two officials from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. They were patrolling nearby, kind of nearby like the highway area, and they saw two humanoid figures standing by the side of the road wearing trench coats. Um, and this is where it gets weird. They described them as being dog-like. Uh, so I don't know what kind of situation you would look at something and be like, "That's a dog standing in a trench coat," but they were also smoking. So there's
Dude,
these two
like,
dogs standing on two legs, smoking in trench coats by the highway.
that's totally like, wait, I have something here. Well, they can take many forms. Many people who see them today describe them as hollowed out, dog like animals.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So anyway, they went to investigate and they walked over there, and then it just, I guess, like they weren't there anymore, but the only thing left behind was cigarette butts that were like still burning. It's
Hmm.
like, what the fuck?
Well, they were truly trying to disguise themselves as humans, even though this is not what they look like. They look like humanoid dog hybrids. I hate it. Ew. That's what the rake looks
Yeah.
like, apparently, too, in that creepy pasta, which must have been based off of skinwalkers. I'm telling you, dude, this stuff is real.
Um, it's either real or it's all based on some weird albino red-eyed person who likes to pretend to be a dog. So that's all I have for you
Wow.
today. What do you think?
The last part was really creepy. I think that it is fucking crazy. I think that the ranch is definitely has a portal to another dimension. The cylinder with the light and the person crawling out of it or whatever it was, that like goes towards that. Like that lends credence to that. I think just because you said that they were like seemingly crawling out of this like cylinder, um, not and then it disappeared. Like it's almost like the tunnel appeared, and but it was like I don't know, like they had to go like upwards, and then they did, and then finally once they got out,
Yeah.
the thing was like, okay, now closing, bye, see you later. Like we'll pick you up at 7. Um,
Yeah.
it's just like, ugh, it's just so creepy. All this shit that happened at the ranch, yeah, pretty hard to explain. Yeah, I kind of side with the poor woman who was like interdimensional portal. I see that.
Yeah, and it's also interesting because the variety of things that happen there, like that makes me really curious about the whole like I don't know, like world building of paranormal activity, like because we have UFOs. They saw a lot of UFOs, different crafts too, never the same type of craft. Um, Honestly, there's a story that I would like to talk about eventually, but I'll just say now. Like, basically, Sherman, he was out with his 3 dogs, and this like orb came and like lured the dogs off, and all you could hear was the dogs just whimpering in pain. And basically, like all he saw when he went to investigate was like these steaming, eviscerated piles of ash.
What the fuck? Did the
Yeah,
dogs return?
no, they were gone. They were
Oh
dead.
my god.
So like we have aliens, we have freaking dog killing UFO drones, we have skinwalkers, we have these dire wolves that like want to eat your cows. Like also like all the technological failures of the cameras and stuff with the NIDS researchers just kept happening.
You know what I think it is?
Um,
I think there's something under the ground that is
Interesting.
drawing all these different, usually would not be related things.
Yeah,
That's what I
like
think.
a hellmouth.
Something, just fucking something, some weird rock, some like gravitational pull, some electromagnetic pull, something.
Mm,
I don't know, because like these
yeah,
things really like outside of this specific place, like they're not related at all, in like in
yeah,
like paranormal zeitgeist, not really. Um,
yeah,
but they all converge here.
yeah.
Hmm.
In Utah of all places.
Yeah, fucking boring as shit. The fuck.
Yeah.
Sorry, Utah, don't come for me. Um,
So like I don't know how I feel about skinwalkers in general, but I do think there's something happening. I don't know. I don't know if we could call it a skinwalker or maybe it's just a symptom of other things, you know, like
yeah.
creatures, paranormal activity. I'm just not sure. Because there's so many differing opinions on skinwalkers and what they look like and what they do, I'm just not completely sold,
Well, I'll
but
tell you this: I'm not sure what they are, where they come from, or if like they're actually just exclusive to like Navajo culture. But I think that they are real. Whatever they are and wherever they come from, they are real. Um, I've just heard a lot about it, and I mean, I maybe I have the bias of I really like this topic and I read about it years ago, but yeah, I believe it. It's crazy. When you mentioned the humanoid figures like with the trench coats. By the way, that was such a creepy image. Like, ugh. Bleh. But it reminded me of this video, completely off topic, but really, it reminded me of this video. I don't know if you've seen it. I'll send it to you. If anyone in the audience has seen it, hi. So it's this like it's being recorded from a car. The car's on the highway, and like it sees something in the distance, so it slows down, and then what it records is on the side of a high. Ugh, I hate this video so much. On the side of a highway, it sees like a group of 12 men in suits, all holding
Hmm.
briefcases. Um, I don't know if they have faces. Maybe they don't. Maybe the quality of the video just wasn't very good. Plus, it was nighttime. But it seems like they don't have facial, like they don't have faces. So they just have a head with a blank, like just a skin on their face. And then
Hmm.
they like all move kind of weird. They all move kind of like their heads start moving like they're chickens. I don't know how to explain it. And
Hmm.
like this all happens in like the span of like 5 seconds. It's a really short video. And then like the camera focuses. This guy's still recording from his car, mind you. The camera focuses to like way far behind the guys. There's like a fire going on. And then the
What?
video ends. It's fucking bizarre. And I have never seen anything that I've never seen anyone claim it. I'm not gonna say I've never seen anything debunk it, because I mean it would be easy. You could just say I don't believe it's real. But
Yeah.
like usually one way you can know a video is like bullshit is people claim it, and people usually like claiming their work because they work hard on it. No one has ever claimed that video. Um,
Hmm.
and I've read a lot about this shit and that video specifically. Boy, that video just like it's unnerving to me. I can't explain it.
You know what?
Anyway.
That makes me think that they're. Doesn't that kind of sound like the Men in Black,
I mean, not
Andre?
quite. These men seem like disoriented. If anything, what I think is there was a ritual going on. They killed someone in that fucking fire for sure. And now they're all like huddling
Oh.
together. I don't know, trying to like escape by just like walking on the side of the road. I'm confused. I don't even know if they were humans. Maybe they were just
Interesting.
posing as humans. Um, Yeah, I'll send that to you, Shannon.
Well,
Um,
well,
on
that's
that creepy
really
note.
creepy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't know if I'm doing it justice by explaining it here verbally, but anyway, um, thank you
Well,
for
I think
listening,
it's time.
everyone. I hope you like this episode. Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I think it's time for us to talk about what the people really came here for. Is Brittany out yet?
Okay, no. Okay, well, yes. Listen. Out of what? Out of the mental facility? Yes, she is. Like, can she be put back in there? Well, if you believe that it was her managers that did it and she's not in control of her life, then yeah, she could go back in there in a second. Is she free from her conservatorship, which is a real question here? No, she's not, and she's currently going to court over this against her dad, which is super sad to hear, but like it had to happen at some point.
Aww.
Her dad isn't letting her go, and she's like 35. She wants to like control her own money. 2007 was literally 12 years ago. Like she's fine now.
Yeah.
So yeah, so she's not free, I guess you could say.
All right. Well, we're thinking about Brit. We have her in our thoughts and prayers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I agree. Everyone, please say a prayer for Brittany. Free Brittany, bitch. So we'll keep you updated on that on episode 22. If you have any episode suggestions, by the way, related to. So, yeah, for episode 22, if any of you have any episode suggestions, feel free to DM us on Twitter at Scary Talk. Um, uh, and you can also find us on any podcast listening platform. We're on Stitcher and TuneIn and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Play. Yeah, Shannon?
Well, I just wanted to say I completely forgot because when I was looking at buttercream frosting videos on YouTube, I found this one and then I like checked the girl who posted it to see if she had anything else related to baking. And the featured video on her profile was my spiritual and mental demonic breakdown. And it shows her being hauled away by cops. So, yeah, I just wanted to leave with that.
Okay. Well, everyone, the Mothman is real. Thank you for listening. We love you. Good night.
Goodbye.